Yeah, I worked a lot of also. I mostly only worked in the film industry. But I did a lot of craft things, or I did cinematography. I was a boom operator, a sound recordist, all those kinds of things. And I really love making films. Like I really love being on a film set, and you know, it's like a symphony orchestra. Everybody has their instrument, their job to do, and then it all goes together, and you make a film that way. So I really like that. But sometimes, yeah, you really have to fight. You have to be that, you know. And you know, my parents are always giving me, you know, oh, you should take the computer course at Waterloo and all this kind of stuff. But and they came when I had a film at TIFF, I had a feature at TIFF, and they came out to see it, and then they didn't realize before that what a big deal it was, and then they kind of backed off after that, you know. But it is, you do have to dig your feet in, and you know, be a fighter sometimes. Like just.
So the secret is Mr. Noodles. If you like Mr. Noodles, you too can be a filmmaker. Questions? Yeah, right there.
In our generation, we were more satisfied with being middle management. How is today's generation? Is it fighting for being on top or upper management rather than just settle for?
By we, do you mean people of color?
Yes.
Okay, so the question, I think you heard it, but I'll just repeat it because that's what I've been doing to make myself seem useful. So the question was, his generation, presumably some of the people in the audience today, grew up as people of color in an era where middle management was the goal. And the question was, so for the sort of the next generation, I guess including myself in that, do we have higher ambitions to sort of be the boss?
Yes. I think all of us are creators, and so we want to see our work on the screen. So yes, I think there's definitely an expectation that that's where we want to be. I think, although I should say that I think most people who get into film, it's funny, when you go to film school, I think you're in a room full of 20 other directors, and probably one of them ends up being a director, if that. Everyone else, if they stay in film, and most of them won't, frankly, but if they do stay in film, they'll be doing other jobs, very, you know, amazing, very rewarding jobs, but just in other aspects of the film industry. And every once in a while, maybe they'll get a chance to make a film themselves, and that's the way that it works. So, I mean, like, for example, I'm an editor, and I do that job, and I love it, as well as doing my own writing. And but when I get a chance, occasionally I'll direct something, occasionally I'll get a chance to be in a writing room. Of course, those are that's the jewel, you know? That's what I aim for.
I think there's also a generational difference in terms of how we look at work. I know that for my parents, it was very much a work-to-live attitude, whereas I find in this generation, people are really, really determined to find a line of work that they're passionate about intrinsically, and not just because it can provide for a family. And I think as well, I mean, if we're looking at a younger generation, for my generation, which are millennials, there's actually a lot less opportunity to be anything but an entrepreneur, and the people who are finding financial success or who are cutting their own path are the ones who are succeeding, are the ones who are finding more success and finding the power that they have in their voice and in what they can do and in their creativity.
Wow, I can answer this in several different ways. So for my parents who came to Canada, I'd say they've been here for 45 years at least, their idea of success, you know, would be to have a good paying job, own a home, raise 2 kids, you know, as best they can. Those kids would grow up, have a half-decent job, and also get married, have kids, and that's success. And then, you know, I guess then someone like myself comes along and says, you know, I don't think I want that average job. I actually don't even want to get married and have kids either. I'm going to do my own thing, and that freaked him out. Yeah, it scared the crap out of him, and I don't think my parents even took me very seriously when I said I'm going to try my first short film, and you know, got through the 2 shorts, and then got through my feature, and even then I don't think they took me very seriously either, until the film was done and it premiered, and yeah, and they thought, you know, I think you've got some chops, and yeah, there's a huge difference between this generation's aspirations and goals and our parents, for sure.
Yes, that's, I would say it's, yeah, the power that's so important, and I think the more we see Asians and other people from inclusive backgrounds in the top positions, it will really make a big difference. I find film crews, like, they tend to be very, very sort of, they feel very, not privileged, but they have this kind of thing about them. And I remember, you know, and it's because they get hired by people like them, and they get these special jobs that they, you know, they create. Everyone's chasing after, and I remember you don't get. I just feel, well, I never get much respect like on some film sets, you know, and then, but I didn't realize that, and then one day I visited John Woo's film set, and he was shooting To Catch a Thief, I think it was, in this TV series here. And I visited his office, and these crew guys were going indoors, and they held the door. They saw me, and they held the door for me. And I realized that's the first time I've ever gone to someone's office or something, and I had, you know, the film, they held the door. They should have, and it's because they're hired. It's who they're hired by. So if you have the top, you know, people in the top positions, then the respect will also follow. And I think that's a really good. It's a good comment. It's a good thought.
For more conversations about many different generations, Asian Canadians, specifically South Asians, watch Jag Parmer's Dowry in about 15 to 20 minutes. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut it short now because we're a bit over time. Thank you for your interest and your enthusiasm. Thank you to our panelists. Yay. Thank you to all of you. It was a fascinating discussion, very good questions. So as close to 6 as possible, maybe a bit after, we're going to show Parmer, really? Dowry by Jag Parmer, and she's going to be here for a Q&A to talk specifically about her film. It's a really complex portrait of how sort of different generations within the South Asian community interact, and I think it's something that you're really going to enjoy. So hopefully you'll stick around for that, and thank you for coming.